Yep.
Nice. And share your progress, share your comments, share your observations. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
We on chapter 33 today. Let's look at the map. The world, Napoleon Bonaparte. Africa. How Napoleon went to Africa? That's going to be a question. Remember that? Had Napoleon went to Africa? Yeah. He led the army to Egypt. Where is Egypt? Egypt is in Africa, North Africa, right? So, Has Napoleon had anything to do with America?
Yeah?
I don't think so.
A little bit.
The Louisiana Purchase. So, not get in there. Let's look at Great Britain. Portugal. Sorry, how to see that? Austrian. Prussia. Do you see Prussia there?
Prussia?
Prussia.
Yeah.
Ottoman Empire. Elba, that is where he exiled, I believe. So Napoleon's Empire. So that's pretty big one, right? Almost a lot of Europe is under his control. Okay, we're going to start reading. I'm going to have our young friend Kayla to start reading for us. Okay.
Napoleon Wars.
The first 2 pages, okay?
While the settlers were beginning to trickle west, a different kind of invasion was taking place in Europe. The Emperor Napoleon was pushing the border of his empire further and further out, until most of Europe was forced to salute to the French flag. After Napoleon lost the Battle of Trafalgar.
That's a difficult one. Trafalgar.
Trafalgar.
Yeah, everybody repeat on me. Trafalgar. Okay. Esther, speak. Trafalgar. There you go. Trafalgar. You speak. Trafalgar. See? Don't be afraid to speak it, especially difficult ones. Just repeat it until you're comfortable to your mind. So.
Trafalgar to the British Navy. The British asked Australia and Russia to join with Britain in
defining. Remember the word called defiance? Defiance? Yeah. Okay, defiance. Okay.
The 2 countries agreed. Just a month after
Trafalgar. Let's do it 3 times in a row.
Trafalgar.
Yeah, Trafalgar. Making fun of it, so you're not intimidated by it, right?
Yeah. The Australian and Russian armies gathered together to fight Napoleon. It's a great army. But Napoleon avenged his defeat at Trafalgar. His soldiers smashed through the combined lines of Russians and the Australians. Austria was forced to give up all its land to Italy. Napoleon gave the city of Naples, to his brother Joseph to rule. The Persian army marched against Napoleon.
Prussian army. Not Persian. Persian is a different nation.
Prussian army.
Prussian.
Prussian army marched against Napoleon and was defeated. The Russians retreated and then attacked again and lost. The Khazar of Russia, Alexander I, was Catherine's great-grandson, but he did not have Catherine's
stubborn. You're a stubborn girl. Sorry, it's terrible. Go ahead.
Was tired of fighting Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
He signed a treaty promising to give Napoleon part of Poland in exchange for peace. Now Napoleon had Europe under his thumb, but England still irritated him. Why couldn't he beat the British? Oh, thank you. Napoleon knew better than to try to invade Britain again. He decided to...
Remember the first time all his ships are drawn? Remember that? Was defeated? That is the Battle of Trafalgar. What it is.
So he decided to starve the British instead. He announced that the British ships could not dock at any European port. No country in Europe would be permitted to buy English goods. Any ship from any country that went to Britain with food, or any ships from any country that went to Britain with food or supplies, would be seized, and its captain accused for treachery against France.
Treachery means a betrayal, doing harm to somebody. Treacherous, a man treachery.
The little country of Portugal, on the coast of Spain, objected. Portugal made a lot of money trading with the English. If Britain starved, the Portuguese might starve too. Napoleon wasn't going to let tiny Portugal defy him. But in order to attack Portugal by land, he had to go through Spain. So he marched into Spain, removed the Spanish king, and gave Spain to his brother Joseph too. He headed towards Portugal with his army, but Napoleon never managed to conquer Portugal. The Spanish, who hated Joseph, occupied his army with rebellious and revolts. And Alexander I, the Khazar of Russia,
the Tsar, the C does not pronounce the Tsar.
The Tsar of Russia changed his allegiance. He declared that he was no longer Napoleon's friend and ally. Napoleon's huge empire was attacking like a bucket of fish, all caught, but still trying to wiggle out over the edge of the bucket. Napoleon decided that the Russian fish needed to be caught and shoved back in. So he massed his army all together, and in June of 1812, marched over 500,000 men into Russia.
Okay. 500,000 men, that's a lot of people, huh? So remember the date, 1812, I'm sorry. The game to war. Oh, you finished there? Okay. Okay. Next person, please.
Instead of standing up and fighting, the Russians retreated. Napoleon's army marched further into Russia. The Russians retreated some more. By late summer, the French army was spread across 700 miles. Napoleon kept marching, ordering his troops to burn and destroy the countryside as they went. In the second week of September, he arrived at Moscow. The beautiful city was mostly empty. Napoleon ordered his army to burn it down to the ground. Then he sent word to Alexander I, offering to sign a treaty with him. No answer came. Alexander had planned all along to lure Napoleon into Russia. "We have vast spaces to retreat in," he told his advisors. "We will leave it to winter to wage our war for us." Napoleon had been caught in the same trap as the Swedish army years before. While he waited in Moscow for word that Alexander would surrender, the air grew colder and colder. Far away, Alexander remarked, "Before I sign a peace treaty, I'll go eat potatoes in Siberia." And he let Napoleon wait some more. Finally, Napoleon ordered the French army home. but it was already October. The French were marching home through the country they had burned on the march in.
So why he had to march it out? Think about it. Because he has no winter supply, no food, right? So in the city, actually they burn everything. They burn furniture, torn furniture. That's happening many times in Russian history, huh? Yeah, go ahead.
There was no food anywhere in the shattered countryside. They were wearing summer uniforms. Snow started to flake gently down from the sky. The temperature fell to 30 degrees below zero. Soldiers began to freeze in their tracks. The road is covered with our men, frozen to death. One of Napoleon's generals wrote. We have thrown away our guns. They are too cold to hold. We step over the dead as we walk. When the French army reached the
Berezina
River, the border between Russia and Poland, they discovered that the Russians had burned all of the bridges. Finally, Napoleon's army struggled across the freezing water to the other side.
And remember, they don't have horses.
Yeah.
They ride over fast. And the Russians have horses. So they send people continue to attack them, riding horses. They do have horses, but this time, however, most are eaten, so they're eaten. So, Go ahead.
600,000 men had died. Only 40,000 soldiers remained.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So 500,000, that's more than 500,000, right? So.
The conquered states of Europe took heart. The French-ruled countries of Prussia, Germany, Austria, and Italy began to chant, "Down with France!" Even in France itself, Napoleon's subjects were growing tired of war, blood, and destruction. In the streets of Paris, people grumbled about Napoleon. A few voices murmured, "Down with the emperor."
Yeah, he won all other wars, almost. He's a genius in war, but he's very foolish in the military engagement like here, right? So lost all his army. Yeah, go ahead.
The murmur grew louder. Napoleon, hearing of these mutterings, hurried the shattered remnants of his army back to Paris. Europe was about to slip from his grasp. The Americans chose that exact moment to pick a fight with the British. For several years, American sea captains had been complaining about the way they were treated by the English. British ships always needed more seamen to help fight in the long water war against Napoleon. So their captains had taken to stopping United States ships at sea, announcing that the American sailors were English deserters, and taking them on board to serve the Royal Navy. Americans were also angry that British soldiers had come down from Canada to help Tecumseh and his Shawnee warriors attack American settlers. So on June 18th, 1812, the United States declared war on Britain.
That's a major date, right? So the second time have a war with the British, okay? It's time to burn the White House down below.
Britain didn't want to turn around and fight the United States. It had its hands full with Napoleon. But while Napoleon rushed back to Paris to defend his power, the British sent part of their navy over to America. English ships sailed into Lake Erie and Lake Michigan and landed British soldiers on the shore, ready to invade Ohio. At that, Tecumseh saw one more chance to fight against...
You think you read louder would be great. I like your voice, but a little louder so we want everybody to hear clearly.
He declared that the Shawnee were allies with the British in the War of 1812, and his warriors helped the British soldiers invade the Northwest Territory and capture the city of Detroit. For a full year, Tecumseh's Shawnee warriors fought alongside the British. Then William Henry Harrison, now a general commanding part of the American army, marched against Tecumseh once more. In a huge battle, Harrison defeated the combined British Native American army and drove them back out of the Northwest. Tecumseh was killed. His body disappeared from the battlefield. His warriors took it away and buried it in a secret spot. The Americans had won in the Northwest, but the British were still fighting. The following summer, British ships landed on the shores of Washington, D.C. President James Madison fled.
How many presidents before James Madison? Let's count.
No idea.
First president. Let's last expert. She's expert.
First president.
Who's the first president?
Yeah.
Oh, George Washington.
Second.
George Washington again.
Sure.
I know.
It was.
Wait,
You
second
don't
president?
know.
I'm just saying.
Wait, the second
I-
president?
Yeah.
Stephanie knows.
I
I do.
thought it did.
What is John Adams?
Ah, good deal. Yeah.
I knew
That's
it-
high
I knew
five.
it-
Learn a high five. You got a high five. Back five.
the
Third. Yeah. Third. Sorry. Third.
Come on.
Sorry. That's third.
Oh my gosh, I knew to do this.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson the third. So, now, John Adams was a vice president of Washington. Thomas Jefferson was Secretary of State. So, and Madison was the Thomas Jefferson Secretary of State. So, don't get distracted. So Jefferson also a secretary of Washington. He's a father. Madison, sorry. He's the father of Constitution. So he's the one holding together. James Madison. He's the one holding together for the the meetings to discuss Constitution. Remember that? Yeah. Washington was the president. He was the one organized all things. So they are all verbally mind. Also knows a lot of law, the constructing the nation. A wonderful bunch of people. So now, how many terms each one had? Washington had 2 terms. What about Adam? John Adams. 1 term. Okay. What about Thomas Jefferson?
I think he had
Yeah, 2, right?
2.
I think he has 2 terms. I don't quite remember, but I'm sure Madison had 2 terms as well. So I think so. So that's the first 50 years time, almost like establish a starting period. How this brilliant man continued to be president and holding things together, right, from 76 from Independence Day till today is 1812, right? It's a lot of time. Now, then I don't know which year John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, which become rivalry, right? Later on, they repaired the relationship, but they died on the same day. What day do you think it's day is? You heard the story? Died on 4th of
July.
Is that amazing? They all died on the 4th of July, so same day. So a lot of things is interesting in American history, worth to know, right? So James Madison is a brilliant mind. Brilliant mind. He was a young man, 30-something years old at the time, but he helped to design the major things about the American Constitution. So he learned that. He spent about, when he was 24, 25 years old, thinking about, how the government should run. He began to study all the ways how government being arranged. And take a couple of years. Why have fighting war? Why they doing all kind of things? Running a business. He learned all the ways, how government being arranged. So they become a major architect for American Constitution. So is that amazing? 25 years old boy. I'm a boy, right? So it's like, okay, I want to know how the nation should be organized. Study all that, and then quietly organize all the eminent figures, which is almost like the father figure, Washington, I said, hey, let's do this. Let's reorganize this. So now the continuity goes on until his presidency. Now he, finalizes the American founding area called. Okay, so that's where your heritage came from. Now, when those founding fathers began one by one, died off, and American again go to almost a national crisis, and the slavery and the division between South and North become more acute, and the slavery issue become more and more controversial, and divide the nation. And quickly, about another 2 or 3 decades, the nation come to a place of such intense disunity. Eventually, the South formed their own confederation, declared war to the North, and that's my point. So then, what have you? You have a civil war experience now. With Civil War move on, Reconstruction came around, and the Industrial Revolution in the Europe began to also spread and benefit the American economy now. So you got this amazing time. Railroad began to take shape. Engine, the steam engine began to take shape. So it became the wonderful time for American become a more advanced, more prosper, but also the struggles for the poor, the rich, the ways how the new government should adapt to the new economic powers, the new kind of social reality become a real. I'm sorry the academic word, but again, another wrong conflict. So the American goes through transformation after transformation, and that's leading to we're talking about the progressive movement, but that's not really elevated the situation. Only the shadow of the because the revolutions begin to break out. Russian began to have revolution. Then the breakout of the First World War, eventually leading the American to awareness. Oh, we can't have those stuff repeating this nation, right? So there is a wake up call in a sense. And the leadership of this nation began to think about, we don't want those kind of divisions, those kind of chaos running in America as it happened in Europe, So we talk the First World War indeed. But the war always give up since now. So we have the 20s called the lost generation around those times, leading to called the Gilded Era. It's happy, but it's not necessarily a sustainable prosperity time. So eventually leading to the 1929, the breakout depression, the whole social economic crisis began to really come to a head. So most of the people lost their job, half of the people lost their job. Many people, it's more than in America, in all over the world. Now you study history, you look at a different personality, but I will try to give you an overall how social moves, social modes begin to change. And always there's something seems systematically or by innately the social construct is not good, and each one causes problem. And right in the beginning of a problem, it's become a problem, and then problem causes more problem, So one solution causes another. That being said, after the 30s, buried almost a 10-year depression time, that's a long period of time, and eventually the banking system collapsed almost, lost credibility. So we have President FDR. Who is FDR? Anybody knows who FDR is? Mm-hmm. Okay, who is it?
Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt, D.R. Roosevelt, called the New Deal come around, So New Deal started in 1936, I believe. So goes on, the American finally recovers the feet a little bit. And then Pearl Harbor happened, So the Americans dragged into the European war again, this World War. after World War finished, I know the story of World War. Am I? What year World War finished? Anybody knows?
Which one?
World War II.
It was like
1945. Okay, 1945.
It started
So,
in
yeah.
1944, I believe, right?
It's earlier than that. I
Yeah.
think it's earlier than that. So
It was a long war.
it's a long war. It's a 4-year war, I believe. So yeah, started 41 with the invasion of Poland. Here we're talking about. The reason is to put American in the picture to see how American shifted with the involvement means around is the politics developing European nations, right? So, but after that, after the Second World War, American become the one set the order, the pace setter for world events. Okay, so making sense to you? So unfortunately, then by that time, Russia and China fall into the control, and major nations, a lot of people, called communism, right? Cold Wars kick-started. And Cold War ended almost half a century later. That is after Reagan's time, during Reagan's time, So making sense to you? Really the Russian be dissolved as communist nation. It's in the Bush Senior's time. That's before you guys. And then it's a greatly celebrated, but also now the people conscience say, like, hey, we got everything together, we're good to go, So about 10 years, 20 years later, then the 9/11 happened. That's right now we commemorate about 20 years ago. 9/11 changed everything again for the world, right? So changed everything. Now, company at that time is the television come on board, television, internet. You guys grew up with mobile phone, right? Internet age. So none of you, I think about there's no phone, right? No internet, right? No TV, whatever. So, yeah. So, you have totally bearing about world events, especially 9/11. Who is born? All born after 9/11. I can't believe that. I have no idea how 9/11 changed the whole world world picture. 2001.
Wow.
2001, before you were born.
Around Noah was born, right?
Oh, yeah, he's born that year, I believe so. Yeah. Can you believe that? I mean, he don't know anything either. So, but that changed everything. So for anybody, the World Trade Center at those time was prestige to be the prosperity of the world, the symbol of the world economy, So now suddenly crashed. And that's now with the survival of Afghanistan war. What I'm talking about, those world-shaping events, from a point of view, what happened to America. Now, American gradually was introduced to this role as not a policeman of the world, but as one major leading ruler of the world, a leader of the free world especially, would be defined. That being said, let's move on. So that's all started from here. Started from this time. This is the first time that American worked with Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte to get involved in European affairs a little bit, right? So yeah. But still on the receiving end. Let's finish that. Go ahead. So
President James Madison fled, just ahead of soldiers who stormed into Washington and set fire to the Capitol building. The Library of Congress and all its books went up in bright, hot flame. The soldiers looted the president's house, stole its treasures, piled up its red velvet chairs, and lit them. Soon the whole house was wreathed in fire and smoke. But the British didn't really want to occupy America. They had too much work to do fighting Napoleon. So finally the two countries signed a treaty. They agreed to behave as if the war had never happened. The War of 1812 had achieved absolutely nothing.
Nothing? The Burn the White House down. That's something. That's okay.
By 1814, France was demanding that Napoleon make peace. Austria, Russia, Prussia, and Great Britain swore together to stay united until Napoleon was defeated. Once more, Napoleon railed his army. Rally. He marched out of France toward the combined armies of Europe. While he was gone, a French official announced that the emperor no longer ruled. Messengers had been sent to Louis.
The 18th.
Louis the 18th.
X is 10, V is 5. The 3 there added to it, so after, so it's 18th. So.
The brother of the Guillotine King.
If it is something that we are going to have to do, like
Louis, who had been living in England, was a fat, slow-witted man.
What?
Almost 60 years old.
This author is really nice.
He agreed to come back to France as its king. Facing a huge army without the support of his own country, Napoleon finally admitted defeat. The British, Russian, Austrian, and Prussian allies met together and decided that Napoleon should be taken to the tiny rocky island of Elba.
Elba, they're going to be tested. Where is Napoleon's exile? Huh? Go ahead.
In the Mediterranean Sea.
Mediterranean Sea.
Here, Napoleon was told he could still have the title emperor,
What?
the Emperor of Elba.
But exiled. What emperor is that? I'm joking. Here we go.
Still
Here we
have
go.
an army
Elba.
with 400 men in it. Napoleon would spend the rest of his life on an island 7 miles wide, watching the sardine boats float by and the olives grow.
Olives grow. This guy's William, right? So,
Waterloo.
no. Why in the bandit?
I have one. You do? Oh,
Cut your fingers.
yeah, I gotta be cut last night. That's kind of how big do you need it?
You basically have it now,
Kind of like a small, normal size.
Small? I got
Wow.
really small ones.
Oh, she's prepared.
Wow. I'm impressed by this young lady. She has everything. Next chapter. Waterloo. We're gonna finish this portion, okay? Waterloo. Okay, you don't want to read?
I can. I just
Okay. Let me see. Anybody want to read? Go ahead, you two gentlemen read for us.
At the same time, do
At the
it.
same time, that's fine. Fine for me.
Napoleon Bonaparte, the monster hero, now spent his days in exile. He was made the ruler of Elba, which had a few people in it, and given a staff so that he could form a little island government. He had a small palace. His mother and sister came to live with him, and the French government had agreed to send him money every year so that he could run this island. Napoleon bustled around his island, working in his garden and adding rooms onto his palace. He improved the roads, built bridges, and tried to make the fields bear crops. But the man who had once ruled Europe was bored. He was angry. He was humiliated. Tourists sailed to Elba just to see the famous Napoleon in his prison. And as the time went on, he got poorer. France never sent a single penny of the money it had promised. Back in France, Louis XVIII was not making himself popular. He was determined that people would treat him with the same respect that the Bourbon kings of France had always been given.
Don't tell me personality don't decide history, right? Here's a bad king, what have you. He ruined the whole chance. You know, so go ahead, I'm talking. So.
Just as if the revolution had never happened. In his first big public appearance, he fell down and was too had to get up without help. He wouldn't allow anyone to help him up. But the most important of all, the palace officials. So he had to lie on the ground until the official could be found. Wow.
Yeah, what can mind that? More than physically stupid. Sorry,
Yeah.
could. But the mind is dumb, right? So
Right.
on this kind of occasion, you should think differently, right? So especially after you have went through so much, you know. So
He couldn't even get up.
yeah. I mean, what a selfish pig. Sorry, the word.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a bad English, right? So word derogatory. But you know, think about what that the people see that. So I'm just quoting. Okay, that's the big quote. And that is quote. In the mind of a French citizen, right? So what kind of king?
The common people of France began to fear that the king would once again become a tyrant.
Well, I have read many novels pertaining to this time.
Oh, really?
The very intense time. The French people really exasperate themselves, you know. So the authors, the revolution, remember how bloody and divided it was, you know. So then Napoleon come around, offer some peace and even national pride. Then suddenly, again, this come back, you know. So they are defeated. So they were absolutely agitated as a nation. So a lot of people at this time begin to apply their mind to think about what is this really about, you know. So they have very strong feelings about the things happening here. So yeah, that's why that time have a world where powerful novels, plays, music, even things that being shared about this time. So all of those things, all of the drive the thinkers especially, you know, so later on, those are the deep-seated reasons why Europe later days developed what it means Europe, you know. So am I making sense to you guys? So because people would think, why this happened to us? What is going on? Why this always so bad, you know? So go ahead.
Napoleon watched his country from a distance. He wrote letters to the soldiers who remained in France. Many of them wrote back, telling him that he should return to France and chase the Bourbon king away. Napoleon knew that the leaders of Europe were discussing sending him much further away.
Well, here's the story.
Okay.
I'll tell you, okay? He ride stealthily, slip away from the guards from this little island, and welcome on the port. And as he walked, no soldier, no army, has to walk, make his way towards the capital, which is Paris. And the people, because the welcome rally around, everything has been turned around, you know, become a parade for him, you know. So, I mean, he's supposed to be called and killed, you know.
All right.
Yeah, here he's just walking on the letter welcoming him, you know. So, because it's a bad king, you see, people don't want this king to be around. So, it's a poor choice. So, anyway, so Napoleon's a good figure, not necessarily. But at least when you look at this poor king and his ways doing things, Napoleon is a good news to them, you know. So, yeah, go ahead.
To some distant island in the Atlantic Ocean. Once that happened, he would never escape. On February 26, 1815, Napoleon arranged for a ship with soldiers, gold, guns, and ammunition to dock at Elba. He told his mother that he was leaving to go fight again. Good, she said. Go die with your sword in your hand, not sitting here in exile. Napoleon boarded the ship and was away before anyone in Europe realized what was happening. He landed at how do you say that? Cannes?
Yeah, there's a today it's called Cannes called a movie, and I have a movie festival. So there's a festival there. So, go ahead.
France with his little guard. I am the Emperor of Elba.
So he didn't see little guards, right? That's a young man, right? So it's a little guard, one person. So go ahead.
I've come with my 600 men to attack the King of France and his army of 600,000. But I will conquer. He started towards Paris. The peasants, remembering the bad old days of the monarchy, flocked to welcome him. The nearest division of the French army was sent to arrest him. When Napoleon saw them approaching, he told his own men to play the French national song, the Marseillaise.
I have no idea.
Marseillaise.
Marseillaise. Okay.
Then he walked forward, holding open his coat. I am your emperor, he shouted. Do you recognize me? If any one of you would like to kill your own emperor, here I am. 45 of your own leaders here invited me back. 3 European countries stand behind my return. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Someone cheered. Soon the soldiers were shouting, "Long live the emperor!"
You see?
That's fine.
It's crazy, huh?
Hearing the terrible news.
Okay, let somebody read this point.
Stop.
Hearing the terrible news, Louis XVIII sent his top general to stop Napoleon. But when this general met Napoleon, he found himself unable to arrest the former emperor. He had fought by Napoleon's side too many times. Instead, he joined in the parade.
You
Louis
actually use the
ran
word
from
called the
Paris.
parade, am I? So, yeah.
Louis
So
ran from Paris.
Uh-huh.
Just 3 weeks after landing, Napoleon arrived in the city and took back his throne. Not a single shot had been fired. I am here in the spirit of the revolution, Napoleon announced. I've come to free the people of France from the slavery of the priests and nobles.
Well, how I learned this stuff is when I was in college. So about 19, 18 years old. And, I never read books before about 15 years old. So my point is, you gotta have high hope to catch up reading, okay? No history stuff that you had to read, interest in it. You know, if you don't investigate, you will never get anything, right? So you have to start somewhere. So the reason I share those anecdotes stuff is not because I know the stories. Those stories, when I was young, I know it. You know, read all those books, read it. And I'm in China. I don't have access to books. So, you know, understand my point? You know, so, and I don't read like an official book. I read through novels. You know, so books don't necessarily directly address the topic. You know, so I would search every information trying to find, oh, what is the novel really talking about? What is the history of background? Why is people so fascinated? Why so agitated? And sometimes it's good to read a novel because, especially historical settings, because it gives you a background what the people, normal people really live there. Not talking about the fantasized movies. I can talk about the realistic novels like War and Peace, to tell you the everyday life people how they go through their time, right? So I would like to, 20 years later or 200 years later, somebody asks interested in Benji's life. Oh, what is that time? What do you think about 9/11? Oh, Benji about 14, 13. I have no idea about the 9/11.
What Benji will actually say is, you remember 2020?
The world around you. Now, I wake up to do things very slowly through reading. Nobody really teach me. Then develop a different interest in learning history. Here notwithstanding, I can tell you about European history, which and understand why the people think that they think. It's because reading, So not reading as daily books, daily information, but reading about the time, the persons, the major persons. That's why I'm gonna have a word repulsive and strong feeling about this foolish fan the king. I mean, what a disappointment more than a person, but a disappointment of the whole inspiration of the people try to change the course of the nation. And it is there flatly failed miserably at this simple mission, right? So Has no idea. So now you understand why people even endorse such a king to be a king. It's a huge problem. But you have to think about it. Will you endorse such a king to be your king in this day, this hour? Obviously, you will not. Am I? You will say, I don't want that to be my king. So why do people in that time think that it's a good thing to do? Because the cultural tradition they carried, right? So, and then why this arrogant, a little bit reckless, this lost almost all the troops of French force. That is a lot of young people. A lot of mothers broken-hearted, a lot of wives lost their husband, a lot of fathers lost children, right? I mean, if such a person lost that much lives and caused heartaches to every family, almost every family, near neighbor, so why they still want him to be the ruler? Welcome, willing to die for him again. Why? You have to think about this. You're not reading history as if it's information. You think about it. If you're a peasant that day, if Napoleon's mother, says, "My mom, what are your sons doing?" Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Now, with that kind of weird for reading stories, reading information, absorbing especially such information, then you're able to understand the Bible better, maybe. Like Jesus' life was in the context, right? The people behave, thinking, interact with him in a certain way. So how he carried himself then? He was not Napoleon. He was trying to change fundamentally things, but not try to take advantage of things to be win and just win vanity drive him for greed, for power, right? So, but Napoleon is not just merely a person greed for power or influences. The big part in Napoleon's heart, he must think he represents something. He is a solution for something that the people desperately need, right? So, he's more than a smart guy or opportunist guy. He actually understands what the people needed, looking up to. So it's the embodiment of something in a sense. So that being said, read history with that kind of perspective, the history a little bit more interesting to you, alive to you. You guys bored with what I'm trying to tell you? I'll share with you. You can read history to be a student's history, learn to be a student history, or you can be just reading, go through the motions. Let me drag along a little bit. You want to be a good student, to learn, quick to learn, right? To learn, interesting learning. Then never be afraid the thing challenges you. Let me say something simple. Esther, you never know how to. What do you do is good? What do you do good? With gardening? Are you good with planting flowers or anything?
I haven't done it very much.
Okay, just imagine you begin to love flowers, care about the flowers, right? So you want to have a beautiful flower in your garden or in your room, whatever. Okay, so if you're interested, you really want to know the best flower, to take care of flowers, you're starting somewhere, right? So if your mom come around, Esther, what is that flower? You said, I don't know. You can walk away from two emotions. One is, oh, mom just putting me on the spot and making me feel so ashamed of myself. I don't know anything. Oh, if you think, mom knows this flower? Oh, what do you more have? Can I get one for myself? Can I learn how you take care of this flower? Oh, mama, you don't know? It's a guy working in the shop knows. Can you help me to introduce and let me know? Can we have a corner of the garden, your garden? I can work on it. You have two different approaches to things. Totally changed because you desire to want that flower to be planted by yourself or not. So why you don't like history? Because you don't want to be a student's history. then you will not appreciate the others tell you how to read history. Well, you can never learn anything if you don't desire to be good at it. And the people help you approaching it become a challenge to you rather than excitement to you. Is that understandable? Okay, your young mind. This is fundamentals. For nothing I can teach you in those times that are with you, information, whatever. I want to teach you how a different way of learning things. This mindset, willing to be a good student, positive attitudes, rather than as the people of the world or young people in generation tend to do, is that brush aside and say, oh, that attitude doesn't work, doesn't matter. It matters hugely. Yeah, everything you do. Well, think about it. Give this example for flowering. Doing flowering, right? So more than you're not able to develop flowers because you lack interest at that point, you will miss a friendship, a great time with your mom. You know, that's a slide off, am I right? It's gone. I mean, you can say, my mom knows a lot of flowers. I really enjoy seeing her plant flowers, but you're never going to develop a seeing passion, seeing interest with a flower, right? So in region also people care about the flower, love flowers. There might be some wonderful people out there, maybe friend with your mom or workers with your mom. Because you lack interest, that door is shut to you, am I? Know me, am I right? So because you're not there, you're not interested, am I? So that door is open to you. If you're willing to let it open for you, or you can shut it with a different attitude. That's purely about you. Now, mom or the friend not going to compel you, tell you, you just missed the opportunity because it was not visibly or explicitly present like that. Life don't take a formula. You're not interested to hear what I'm saying. I want you to hear me, what I try to tell you. All the lessons, all the good times, eventually it does not change you. But the things I share with you in this slide, it changes a man. That's the thing you need to take heart to say, okay, that is very important for me. That's the main theme and reason I'm coming here to learn things. There are things I don't want to be too sober to you. Like, I have a good time. I like to have a fun time with you, but I want you to learn to learn. And at any time I share new information with you guys, you suddenly a wheel, a cloud set in your heart, in your mind. Suddenly you're majority disinterested. Well, then why you want to be here? I mean, you're not interested in learning. As a fundamental attitude is wrong. You're not interested in spend time with somebody willing to teach you. I'm only acting as a facilitation of history information to you. Am I in that light try to enlighten your mind? But I'm using it as a tool to tell you, to shape your mind how to learn things. And if you're interested, there's no use for me to teach you. By the way, you are never interested in everything I discuss with you. You don't see the other standing for you. They have a lot of things for you to learn. For you to pay attention to learn. You're not willing to even think about like your parents. My parents, why they listen to this guy? What reason why they pay attention to him? You're not willing to enlarge your measures. And this is said, by the measure you measure unto me, well, what? Measure back to me. So you have to learn to appropriate others who associate with you in the light you want them to be. Okay? Your mom is a great gardener, has a lot of friends through your interest to flowers, but you just said, oh, that's my mom. This is my mom. Well, do you know your mom as a great teacher and tend the flowers and good friends because of flowers? You're not interested to know your mom in that way. You can't tell your mom is not good to you, or you don't have the opportunity. It's because your interest, the measure you apply to your mom, restrain your mom to impart her life to you, impart her relation to you. Now, This is simple, but it's not simple. The same principle apply to everything in your life. If you're not interested, only interested in what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, go with my rod, my tunnel vision, right? Called the tunnel vision, Vision said. You need to look at, who is Elijah here? You know, who is, so last time we mentioned 3 with learning, okay? Yeah, Elijah, can you repeat the 3 things? Actually 4, so I'm going to repeat again. So, one the first? There are...
You guys have heard these before, but it's... First one is, out of 3 people, you can learn from 1. And then the second one is you can learn more things.
Okay, how you learn 3 people if you don't know what they're good at it? You're not interested to ask the questions. Am I? You can't. You had to engage conversation, said, hey, who are you? What are you interested in? What are you doing? That conversation. Then let them open up for you with that. Then he said, oh, you know a lot about history. I want to learn history. Oh, you know a lot of flowers. Can you tell me a little bit of flowers? I got a rose in my garden, never able to take care of. Can you tell me how to take care of roses? You know, I don't know how to see off the branches in the certain time. It's a matter whether you're interested in doing it or not. Or you can just sitting through. 3 guys awkward sitting around or walking around, nothing happened, right? So, interesting. The second one.
From learning one thing, you can learn multiple things.
Yeah, I'm using history to teach you with a mindset. Not interested to share you merely interesting. I'm trying to tell you how to learn. Now, I learn things, not to brag about it, knowing nothing, no provisions. I learn things in a short period of time. I've read and know things in ways that I don't see many people have a solid education with, right? So when I learn it, I have intense interest to know the things. And that reason, there you go, you don't have that advantage in life, is because I was poor. I don't have any books. I don't have any good teacher to tell they're willing to impart the knowledge to me. So I have this great hunger for knowledge. You know, I have great hunger, a desire and urgency to get the book and hand it because I don't own it. You know, I don't own it. So whether through library or through friends, I borrow it, I will read it as soon as possible, get as much as possible, and have to return it. All right? So that's my point, you know, so I don't own it. Now those advantages, same disadvantages in your young life is an advantage to me because it gives me a urgency and this intense desire to acquire knowledge in a very intense way. You know, so you don't have to do that. You can be paced, but the same desire to be there. I want to know. And you have to have that intense desire, want to know. In your peers, in our young people, we're distinctly discernible. Now, we're discernible. Who is interested to know things, want to learn things, or just drift. Whatever carries with you. Making sense to you? You know. Those things you have to discernibility to be what are we teaching called learn how to learn. If you don't desire to learn, there's no use for you people to tell you how to learn, right? So can never learn how to learn. So if you don't desire to learn. So I'm trying to inspire to you that it's not a simple thing to put aside say, hey, I want to learn things. No, you don't. If you really want to learn things, you will have a different appetite for things. You will have a different attention set for things. The third thing, go ahead.
If you're going to learn from the best.
Learn from the best. Now you have the best. Jesus is the best. How many people learn from him? Jesus was the best teacher, right, in the world. How many people was willing to learn from him? So why they don't want to learn from him? The best teacher in the world. You can't become the best one. Why not everybody interested in him? You would think only if you have Jesus sitting with me, we talk, we drink a little bit of wine, crack a joke, have the bonfire going on. Man, I'm going to be a great student, great disciple in the whole world. I'll get to know him very so well. I know everything he talk about, think about it. You think you will do that, right? Just a matter you don't. Even his mother don't do that, right? So in the time grew up. So and the mother knows the child very intimately. From 2 years old to 12 years old to 22 to 32. I'm sorry. Distantly every 10 years we'll have a wow, what's happened to my son? Wow, who told him this stuff, So the mother would be the first person to observe the change, the dramatic change, and the way how Jesus carried himself. But why the mother Mary still struggles even in the days, in time, with her relation with the son. She's respectful. She's not ungodly. She's definitely used by God in the proper way. But to see the Mother Mary is a great disciple of Jesus would be a little bit dramatic. She's not. She was not. Obviously different than Peter, than others. So why Mary the mother, who knows who Jesus and see firsthand how Jesus was taught, changed, not able to see that his faith to be taught by him? Rather many times trying to disturb his teaching, teaching time with others. Why? Because of mindset. So what I'm addressing to you guys is a certain mindset you take for granted with. You plant your identity in it. You say this is the way how I'm accountable, this is supposed to be. I try to tell you, that's nonsense. Okay? You don't have to subscribe to that. You don't have to operate under that. You can change just like that. Right? Just like that. You can drop that and become a new student. New student of more knowledge, but new student of life. Let's finish this portion, however. So I want that cloud over your head and the familiarities, familiar ways to be gone. Okay? So let's Naomi finish where you started. We're going to wrap it up here.
Does this sound familiar? Napoleon used the same line twice, once in Italy and once in Egypt, but he didn't bring freedom either time. He didn't bring freedom this time either. The excitement soon began to fade. Soon, everyone could see that the common people of France were no better off than they had been under Louis XVIII. As soon as England, Austria, and Prussia heard about Napoleon's return, they moved their armies toward the French border, and were not going to let the monster of Europe eat their countries one more time. Napoleon managed to raise an army of 72,000 soldiers. He marched to meet the English army at Waterloo, a village just south of the Belgian town of Brussels.
Belgian.
Belgian?
Mm-hmm.
Belgian?
I think Belgian. Belgian. Mm-hmm.
The English army, commanded by the Duke of Wellington, had almost as many men as Napoleon's army. The battle raged evenly for hours. Thousands of men died on both sides. The English fought bravely, so did the French, surrounding Napoleon. Finally, Prussian soldiers arrived to reinforce the English. Napoleon was defeated and his soldiers scattered. The general who had joined him instead of arresting him was captured and shot. Napoleon's 100 days of power were over.
How many days?
100 days.
How many days of his predecessor, the emperor? Less than 30 days, right? Oh, this is nation in great tribal, right? So continue this. Think about the common man, So yeah, go ahead.
Even from exile, with an unprepared army, Napoleon had come close to defeating Wellington's men. As he walked through the battlefield, the Duke of Wellington kept repeating, "A close thing, a very close thing." Many of his friends lay dead. Napoleon went back to Paris, and wrote out a paper giving up the throne of France again. Then he quickly left the city. For a few weeks, no one was quite sure where Napoleon was. He was actually hiding in the homes of his old friends, deciding what to do next. He thought he would like to go to the United States and study botany.
Really? Okay.
But the British shut down the ports of France to keep any ships from leaving until Napoleon was found. Finally, Napoleon gave up and surrendered to the British. Now, the British had decided to decide what to do with him. They didn't want him in the United States stirring up trouble, or back on Elba, where he might escape again. If they executed him, the French who had welcomed him back might revolt. The British would have been very happy for France to offer to execute him, but French didn't suggest a plan. Finally, the British announced that they were going to send Napoleon to St. Helena, far off the Atlantic, 1,200 miles west of Africa. The little island was only 10 miles long and 6 miles wide. It was even smaller than a barrier.
Barrier, like
than Elba.
no trees or vegetation and so.
On October 15th, 1815, Napoleon arrived at his exile. Even on this tiny island, he wasn't allowed to go anywhere without the English officer following him. So he spent most of his time in the study of his house. He wrote a book about his life, read books in French and English, playing cards, and
Wrote a book
sometimes
with
gave
his
small
life.
parties. Huh?
He wrote his own autobiography almost.
Yeah.
Have you read that?
Mhm.
Oh, I read part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He's read all his wars, It's just.
Yeah.
I mean, wrote all his wars, the war he fought. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Even though he was far from Europe, tourists still came to look at him.
Mm-hmm.
One English writer, William Makepeace.
Make peace. Yeah.
Thackeray.
Thackeray. Let's do it again. William Makepeace Thackeray.
William Makepeace Thackeray.
Let's do it again. William Makepeace Thackeray.
Really?
See, making fun of it, you'll get it.
Making fun.
Yeah.
Remember
William
saying
Makepeace
before?
Thackeray.
Thackeray was 5. His ship stopped at St. Helena, and a servant took him to see a man walking in a garden. "There's Bonaparte," the servant whispered.
Mm-hmm.
He eats 3 sheep every day and has small children.
Wow.
Seriously? He's a
2
monster
years
now.
after arriving in St. Helena, Napoleon began to complain about stomach aches. No wonder. He became worse and worse. Doctors could do nothing to make him better. By 1821, Napoleon could no longer get out of his bed. He asked for paper to write his last will, and at the end of it he wrote, "I wish my ashes to rest on the banks of Seine, at the midst of that French people, which I have loved so much." He also wrote, "I am not dying a natural death. I have been killed by the English and their hired assassins." Napoleon thought he had been poisoned, but was probably dying of stomach cancer.
I don't think so. He was
A
poisoned.
few hours later, Napoleon died. He was buried on the island, but his stone had no name. It merely read, "Here lies," as though the name of Napoleon were too frightening to be spoken out loud.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
On that note, a great person,
Wow.
fascinating personality.
There lies.
Then the tombstone.
Wait,
Here lies. No name.
It's kind of weird though to have 12
Yeah.
stars.
Well,